Hey, good morning, folks. We continue our FUMCCV devotional, Wednesday, June 9th, reading 2 Corinthians chapter 3 and 4 today. You might wonder where in the world I am. If you follow these daily, you know that I'm up in Central California with my parents. My mom's having surgery today, so just dropped my parents off at the hospital. It's way too early in the morning for real people to be out, and so they're... my dad's getting my mom all checked in. Because of COVID, I can't be in there with them until later in the day. They'll let me in. But anyways, so sitting here in the parking lot in the dark of night, doing this devotional, 2 Corinthians 3 and 4, getting ready for a sermon this coming Sunday that will cover both Corinthians books. So just want to, if you haven't read 3 and 4, press pause right now, go read it, come back, and talk a little bit today. So after you've read it, let's go to chapter 3, verse 1. Paul writes, "Are we beginning to commend ourselves again? Surely we do not need, as some do, letters of recommendation to you or from you, do we?" Now, just to understand how things worked in the ancient Near East. We wonder who someone is. If they're coming into town, we look online. Who is this person who we're going to hear preach or see? Their LinkedIn profile, their Wikipedia page, and all of that. So we can get easily recommendations. I never go to a restaurant unless I first looked at the recommendations for that restaurant online. I'd never buy a product unless I look at the reviews of that product online. Well, in the ancient Near East, the way it worked is that if I was going to some village to preach and to teach, the people who sent me would write a letter and say, this is who Brian is, and this is where he comes from. Essentially a letter of recommendation. Even better if the people who were there knew the recommender. And so that's the way it worked. Apparently what has happened is that Paul has gone into Corinth, he's taught, he's stood the church up, they're going, he's gone on to the next place. There's other people who are now coming into Corinth. They have letters of recommendation, and what they're saying is our letters of recommendation are better than Paul's letter of recommendation. So you should follow our teaching, not Paul's teaching. And if you read through 3 and 4, you can see that Paul immediately begins talking a lot about Moses, that the people who have come in after Paul are essentially saying, Paul came in and Paul told you that all things are lawful, but not all things are beneficial. Remember that from 1 Corinthians? And that Jew or Gentile, slave or free can be Christian. But what we really believe is that you have to follow all of the Jewish customs, traditions in order to be a Christian. And this is why Paul goes on to talk in this chapter about the veil being over Moses' eyes. You only see a part of faith if you only look through Moses' eyes. But as soon as you start to look through Christ's eyes, the veil is taken off. And so that's the situation of these letters of recommendation. Then he goes on, verse 2. You yourselves are our letter, written on our hearts, to be known and read by all, and you show that you are a letter of Christ, prepared by us, written not with ink, but with the Spirit of the living God, not on tablets of stone, but on tablets of human hearts. So certainly when Paul first came to Corinth, he had letters from someone that would tell these Corinthian people who he was. He got to know them. He spent a year, I don't know, however long in Corinth, and now has gone away, and someone's saying that their letters are better than Paul's. Their recommendations are better than Paul's recommendations. And so the people in Corinth have essentially asked Paul, Do you have other letters that are better than these people? So you gave us some, these people gave us some that were better. Do you have some that was better? And Paul's saying, people, you're my letter. You have given yourself to Christ. Is that not proof enough of my teaching and my ministry? So that's the situation in these two chapters in Corinthians. I would encourage you to think today, if people were going to write a recommendation, a letter of recommendation for you as a person of faith, what would they say? And if the people who you have brought to Christ, the people who you have discipled, the people who have looked to you to be their leader in Christ, if they were your proof of faith, what does that say about your faith? Those are really hard questions, challenging questions, but the questions that I think these two chapters ask of us. So God bless. Have a great day. And God bless.